Alright, we're on 1994. This one's a little interesting only in the sake of that you got to start drawing the top view and the front view at the same time to be able to get certain features off of it. We're going to start this one from the top view, and you got to look at the biggest circle is a diameter of 3.5. The next biggest circle is a 2.5 inch circle. The next biggest circle after that is a 1 1/4. So we're going to start off by drawing those three. Diameter of, I forgot already, 2.5 and 1 1/4. Might help if I was on the screen too. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line from the outside quadrant. Actually, I take that back. I'm looking at this measurement right there. It says 6 5/8. 6 5/8 from the center point clear to the back of the piece. So I'm going to draw a line from that center point 6 5/8 back. Then when I look at it, I got to add up those three numbers. That is how thick the piece is. That is 2 3/4. So 2 3/4 wide. But if I'm going to offset that line up, I got to go half of 2 3/4, which is 1 3/8. So offset 1 3/8 up, 1 3/8 down. Go ahead and enclose it, and we've got the overall shape at least to the top view. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling things down for the front view. I'm going to look to get the overall shape of the front view as well. Just draw my horizontal line across somewhere, and I got to figure out how tall everything is over here. If I look at this right here, it says that the biggest circle is a 3.5 inch diameter, 2.5 tall. So that means this big circle is 2.5 tall. If I look over here, the back side of this piece is 2 3/8 tall. So I got two different offsets. So I'm going to go modify, offset 2.5. Go ahead and pull this one back because this is the part that was 2.5. Whoops. And then I'm going to offset the back part, modify, offset, 2 3/8. And this is the back part. I'm only going to pull back to there. How far back do I know? I just want to have that top measurement at this point. I'm going to look at this back edge here. We got two boxes back here that are 1.5 by 3/4 of an inch big for your top view. 1.5. So I got that box and that box there. 1.5 by 3/4. So I'm going to come out 1.5, down 3/4 and back in, out 1.5, up 3/4 and over. Now what that's going to allow me to do is I can bring that point down to that part. This piece right here is how thick it is. If I look in that area, it says it's 3/4 of an inch thick. While I'm right here, it also says that this angle is a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to offset up the bottom 3/4, and I'm going to draw an angle from there at an angle of 45. Shift comma 45. So I'm going to grab this one and pull it to that intersection. Now I've got the overall shape of it. I can get rid of these. Oops, I need to add this one back. I'm just going to go modify trim then, and we'll have the overall size and shape of both pieces. Now the next part we're looking at is we can bring this part up. Now let's look at the drawing here. Really what we're seeing is a U or a C, depending on which way you're looking at it. A U or a C. So I got to figure out this measurement right there. It says it's 3/4 of an inch down. And what I'm trying to get is this middle C piece right here. So I'm going to come in here and modify offset. Come down 3/4 here. Let's go ahead and pull it over to the intersection of it. And now what I can do here is pull that line up. Now if you go back and look at the drawing, this thickness right there is the same 3/4 that is over here. So what I got going on is I'm going to bump these to that. And now I have my C. I'm going to modify trim it to get that C. There is my C right there. I have to come in and erase that one. This line is going to stay, but it is going to be a red and a hidden line. The next thing I'm going to get is the counterbore piece that's in this area. Whoops. Which is right in here. It says that the counterbore is 7/8 of an inch deep. So I'm looking in this area right here for the counterbore, 7/8. So I'm going to go back here. If I go modify, offset, come down 7/8 of an inch. And then pull these quadrants down. It's going to give me my counterbore. If I trim them out, modify trim. That is my counterbore, but the counterbore is also hidden, so it is red and hidden. Alright, so we're certainly getting there. Now we need to go to this area. We're going to go ahead and get this circle in there. It says the circle from center point to center point is over 2.5, and it is a diameter of 7/8. So I'm going to draw a line from here over at 2.5. And draw a circle at a diameter of 0.875. So what can I do at this point? I can pull down these features, that quadrant down, that quadrant down, and those should also be then hidden lines. Let's make them red and hidden. Now we're going to get the groove that goes through this piece. And the groove here is, all the information is right in this area. The 2-inch wide groove by 1.5 inch tall all the way through the part. So what we're going to do is I'm going to draw a line from that quadrant all the way back. And I'm going to offset it 1 inch up and down. It's 2 inches all the way through the part, it said, so I'm getting rid of that. So that piece is also then hidden. I will actually bump that back to it and bump this one back. Now it also said that it was 1/2 inch tall, so I'm going to offset up on the bottom up 1/2. That line is now hidden as well, which means at this point nothing can be underneath that red line because there's nothing there. So we got to bump each one of these lines up to that red line. And now we're getting somewhere with this drawing. We've got a couple other features left. Alright, at this point I got a couple more things I need to do, and I need to get this little cutout piece here in the front. So if I bring down where the groove piece hits all the way down, and then trim out, we'll pull that one up. Sorry, we're going to trim out the back piece. So I'm going to modify trim. It's like those parts out of there. That will get that groove piece out. Then I need to get the circle in this area right here. That circle, if we look at it, it says that it's 1 3/16 over and 1 3/16 up to get a 1.5 inch diameter through. So 1 3/16 up and 1 3/16 over. So we're going to come up 1 and then 3/16 and then over 1 and 3/16. So there's my center point. So if I draw a circle from this point, I believe it would be a diameter of 1.5. So there's my circle at that point. Now when I get that, what that's given me is some points for these quadrants and such to finish my lines in the top view over here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my quadrant all the way through the part and my quadrant all the way through the part. I do need to erase this line out of there. It's going to be a little different because this one from here to here, I take that one, let me just pull, I'm going to pull this one down and this one up. Disregard that. That stays the entire distance. I'm going to go modify trim. Just go ahead and get that part out of there. Those lines will both be hidden all the way through the part. And now I've got solid parts from where it intersects on this circle here and where it intersects that circle there and up. So modify trim. Now my top and my front view are completely finished at this point. Now all I need to do is draw my hypothetical upper right hand corner here. Actually, I'll just go at an angle of 45 here. And we'll get my overall size of the piece first. So I'm going to take the top quadrant over and down. Bottom quadrant over and down. Take my top piece over. My bottom part over. And that's going to be the overall size of the box. So modify trim it out. Let's give the overall size of the box in there. And now there's going to be a box inside of that box coming from this piece here. Over and down.
Mr. Brusso and Mr. Ragland to the main office. Mr.
Over
Brusso
and
Mr.
down.
Ragland to the main office.
And then this line here, shoot it across. So let me zoom in on that. So what we've got now is you can see that there's a small box inside that box. There's a gap in there. So if I trim out, what we've got that box inside of the box. We did this in the counter bore where we actually copied the counter bore itself over to this piece. Remember when I said that point and that point and that quadrant are the same as that point down. So since this piece is circular, that quadrant is the same as that quadrant, which is the same as this point. So that point and this point are the same. So what we can do then is come in and go modify copy. I'm going to copy that counter bore from this point to this point because it's the same piece. I'll go ahead and delete everything off here that I don't need. So there's the counter bore part of it. That's the only part that's in the front here that I need to even worry about. So it's the only part that will be above these lines, or above this line actually. Everything else will be below this line. So at this point, we'll just start taking one thing at a time. I'm going to start off with this middle circle. So just move our way right to left. That middle circle, over and down. Over and down. And what's interesting about this piece is it's not very wide at all. So now if I zoom in on this piece, these lines here are going to be hidden then actually this one will be hidden as well as this. Now that one's not going to be, the top one's going to be hidden. Let's trim out what we don't need here. Modify trim to the top and the bottom of the part, and so that's all the bigger that box is, and then these pieces here only go as wide as the part itself. In that area. This one does pop out, I believe. Pops out all the way. Now let's get the groove piece in the middle, the 2-inch groove piece that goes all the way through. So this one here, we're going to take off from this point over and down, over and down, and from the groove piece over, which is already that line. That's why I didn't change that to a hidden line. So I'm going to zoom back in on it. Really what I have here then at this point is modify trim. Is I'm trying to get that bottom groove piece in there. So now I've got the counterbore taken care of. Counterbore's taken care of here. I've got the hole here taken care of. I've got the bottom groove taken care of. Now all I got to do is worry about this circle and what I call the castle piece over here. So the 3/4 inch pieces here. So with that said, let's finish this dude out. I'm going to pull that piece over and down. That piece over and down. And again, what we're trying to get is a castle piece here, and the castle piece is from this direction over. It goes right over the top of that other line. My castle part is from this right there. So my castle piece is right here. Actually, that one needs to be bumped to there and to there. So there's my castle piece in there, and I didn't trim it out from the top either. So modify trim. So the black lines are my castle piece. It's a little confusing at this point because I've got the counterbore hidden lines behind it, and the solid line always presides over a hidden line. That's why this black one in that area is not a red and dashed one anymore. The last thing I got to do is get the quadrants over. So from this circle over, and this circle over. Oops. Coming from that top of the quadrant, bottom of the quadrant right there. Top of the quadrant, bottom of the quadrant. I'm in this area. So if I go modify trim, I can't be inside or outside of anything. I can't. So I'm selecting these as my cutting plane lines. So that one, that one, that one, and that one. And matter of fact, on the bottom part here, can't go through that bottom area as well. So I'm going to have to trim that in a different way. Modify trim between there and there. And what are those lines? Those will all be hidden. And actually I need to trim out one more piece of it. Jeez. From there to there. Get that circle out. At this point, figure 1994 is now completed.